The night was thick with fog, shrouding the old town of Crestwood in an eerie silence. Kenny, a young photographer with a penchant for capturing the obscure, found himself wandering the labyrinthine streets. He had come to Crestwood seeking inspiration for his next project, drawn by rumors of its haunting beauty under the moon's gaze. As Kenny navigated the cobblestone paths, his footsteps echoed hollowly against the ancient buildings. The dim glow of streetlights cast long, twisting shadows that seemed to dance in the mist. Each corner turned revealed another alleyway, each more foreboding than the last. Lost in thought and the maze of streets, Kenny stumbled upon an old, dilapidated mansion nestled at the edge of town. Its windows were boarded up, and ivy crawled along its weathered walls like skeletal fingers. Despite the warnings echoing in his mind, Kenny felt an irresistible pull towards the mansion, a desire to uncover its secrets through his lens. With a mix of trepidation and excitement, Kenny pushed open the rusted gate and stepped onto the overgrown path leading to the mansion's entrance. The air grew colder and the fog seemed to thicken around him, enveloping him in a suffocating embrace. As he approached the imposing doors, a sense of foreboding washed over him. Ignoring the voice of reason in his mind, Kenny reached out and pushed open the door, the hinges creaking in protest. The darkness within swallowed him whole, and he hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. The interior was a cacophony of decay, with peeling wallpaper and dusty furniture littering the grand foyer. Kenny's footsteps echoed loudly against the marble floors as he ventured deeper into the mansion, his camera at the ready to capture the haunting beauty that surrounded him. But as he explored further, Kenny couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows seemed to dart just out of sight, and whispers echoed in the darkness, sending shivers down his spine. Yet he pressed on, determined to uncover the truth behind the mansion's sinister facade. Hours passed, and Kenny's sense of time began to blur as he delved deeper into the labyrinthine corridors. Every corner turned revealed another empty room, each more unsettling than the last. It wasn't until he stumbled upon a hidden staircase leading down into the bowels of the mansion that he realized he may have ventured too far. But curiosity outweighed his fear, and Kenny descended into the darkness below, his camera clicking away in the silence. As he reached the bottom of the staircase, he found himself in a vast, cavernous chamber, illuminated only by the faint glow of his flashlight. And there, in the center of the chamber, stood a lone figure, shrouded in darkness. Kenny's heart pounded in his chest as he raised his camera, desperate to capture the moment before him. But as the flash of his camera illuminated the figure, he recoiled in horror at what he saw. It was himself, standing alone in the darkness, his eyes hollow and empty. And as Kenny stared into his own reflection, he realized with a sinking feeling that he was truly lost in the night, trapped in a nightmare of his own making. The echoes of Kenny's footsteps reverberated through the cavernous chamber, each sound a stark reminder of the solitude that surrounded him. His mind raced with fear and confusion as he struggled to make sense of the chilling apparition before him. Desperate to escape the suffocating grip of the mansion's darkness, Kenny turned and fled, his footsteps echoing loudly against the cold stone floors. But no matter how fast he ran, the corridors seemed to stretch endlessly before him, twisting and turning in a maze of shadows. Panic clawed at his chest as he frantically searched for an exit, his heart pounding in his ears. With each passing moment, the oppressive weight of the darkness seemed to close in around him, threatening to consume him whole. Just as he began to lose hope, Kenny stumbled upon a small doorway hidden in the shadows. Without hesitation, he threw open the door and stepped out into the cool night air, gasping for breath as he emerged into the moonlit streets of Crestwood. But the relief was short-lived as Kenny realized he was no longer in familiar territory. The streets stretched out before him, empty and desolate, with no sign of life in sight. A sense of dread washed over him as he realized he was truly lost, adrift in a sea of darkness with no hope of rescue. With a sinking feeling in his gut, Kenny knew that his only chance of escape lay in confronting the darkness that lurked within the mansion. Steeling himself for what lay ahead, he turned and retraced his steps, his camera clutched tightly in his trembling hands. As he approached the mansion once more, Kenny's heart pounded in his chest, each beat a drumming reminder of the danger that awaited him within. As Kenny ventured deeper into the mansion, the air grew thick with tension, each step echoing like a thunderous drumbeat in the silence. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting and contorting in macabre shapes that seemed to mock his presence. With every passing moment, Kenny's grip on reality began to slip, his mind teetering on the edge of madness as he struggled to discern truth from illusion. Whispers echoed in the darkness, taunting him with half-truths and cryptic riddles that threatened to unravel his sanity. But amidst the chaos, a faint glimmer of hope flickered in the depths of Kenny's mind, a beacon of light in the suffocating darkness. Drawing on the strength within, he pressed on, determined to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within the mansion's walls. As he reached the heart of the mansion, Kenny found himself standing in a vast chamber bathed in an ethereal glow. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which rested a single ornate key shimmering with otherworldly light. With a sense of trepidation, Kenny reached out and grasped the key, feeling its power course through him like an electric shock. In that moment, the darkness seemed to recede, replaced by a blinding light that illuminated the truth hidden within the shadows. With the key in hand, Kenny raced back through the twisting corridors of the mansion, his footsteps echoing loudly against the cold stone floors. As he reached the entrance, he threw open the doors and stepped out into the moonlit streets once more, the weight of the darkness lifting from his shoulders. In the distance, he could see the first rays of dawn breaking through the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town of Crestwood. With a sense of relief washing over him, Kenny knew that he had finally found his way out of the nightmarish labyrinth that had held him captive. Terry had always considered himself an adventurous soul. The thrill of exploring the unknown, especially in the dead of night, held an irresistible allure. So, when his friend suggested a camping trip to a remote forest on the outskirts of town, he eagerly agreed. The forest, shrouded in darkness and mystery, had a reputation for being a place where people easily got lost. But Terry brushed off the warnings, confident in his navigational skills and the company of his friends. As they set up camp, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows among the trees. The crackling of the fire and the chirping of crickets provided a comforting backdrop to their laughter and chatter. But as the night wore on, Terry couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that crept over him. After hours of storytelling and roasting marshmallows, Terry's friends decided to turn in for the night. But Terry, restless and curious, decided to take a solitary walk through the forest, guided only by the faint glow of the moon. The dense foliage seemed to swallow him whole as he ventured deeper into the heart of the forest. The rustling of leaves and the hooting of distant owls echoed through the stillness, creating an eerie symphony that sent shivers down Terry's spine. Lost in thought, Terry failed to notice the subtle shift in his surroundings. The trees, once familiar landmarks, now seemed to loom menacingly overhead, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. A sense of dread gnawed at Terry's insides as he realized he had wandered off the beaten path. Panic began to rise within him, threatening to consume him whole. But Terry forced himself to stay calm, relying on his instincts to guide him back to camp. Yet the more he walked, the more disoriented he became. The forest seemed to stretch on endlessly in every direction, its labyrinthine depths defying all logic and reason. Just when Terry was on the brink of despair, he stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight. Relief washed over him as he recognized the familiar landmarks of his campsite in the distance. But as he hurried towards it, a bone-chilling scream pierced the night air, freezing him in his tracks. Terry's blood ran cold as he realized the voice belonged to one of his friends. Without a second thought, he raced towards the source of the sound, his heart pounding in his chest. As he burst into the clearing, Terry's worst fears were realized. His friends were nowhere to be seen, their tents torn and shredded as if ransacked by some unseen force. And in the center of it all stood a figure cloaked in shadow, its eyes burning with a malevolent gleam. With a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach, Terry knew he was no longer alone in the forest. And as the figure advanced towards him with outstretched arms, he could only pray that morning would come soon, and with it, salvation. Terry's mind raced as he tried to make sense of the horrifying scene before him. His friends were gone, and in their place stood a sinister figure, its presence suffocating in the oppressive darkness of the forest. Instinct kicked in, and Terry's fight or flight response urged him to run, to escape the clutches of whatever malevolent force lurked in the shadows. But fear rooted him to the spot, rendering him powerless against the encroaching darkness. The figure's voice, low and guttural, cut through the silence like a knife. "Lost souls," it whispered, its words dripping with malice. "Lost like you, lost like them." Terry's heart hammered in his chest as he struggled to comprehend the creature's words. Lost. Was that what this forest did to people? Did it ensnare them in its tangled web, trapping them in a never-ending nightmare? Desperation clawed at Terry's insides as he searched for a way out, a glimmer of hope amidst the encroaching despair. But the forest offered no solace, no respite from the relentless darkness that threatened to consume him whole. With every passing moment, Terry felt himself slipping further into the abyss, his sanity teetering on the edge of oblivion. The figure drew closer, its presence overwhelming in its intensity. But just as all hope seemed lost, a faint light flickered in the distance, cutting through the darkness like a beacon of salvation. Without hesitation, Terry followed its guiding glow, his footsteps quickening with renewed determination. As he emerged from the depths of the forest, Terry found himself standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking a vast expanse of wilderness. The first rays of dawn painted the horizon in shades of pink and gold, banishing the shadows that had haunted him throughout the night. Relief flooded through Terry as he realized he had escaped the clutches of the forest, at least for now. But as he turned to leave, a cold wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the edge of sight. Terry stumbled out of the forest, his mind reeling from the night's terrifying ordeal. The morning sun, though a welcome sight, offered little comfort as he grappled with the harrowing events that had unfolded in the darkness. With shaky hands, Terry reached for his phone, intending to call for help or at least notify someone about what had happened. But to his dismay, he discovered that it was dead, drained of battery after a night spent wandering aimlessly through the forest. Feeling vulnerable and exposed, Terry scanned the horizon for any signs of civilization. To his relief, he spotted a dirt road winding its way through the wilderness, a faint promise of safety and sanctuary. Summoning every ounce of strength he had left, Terry set off towards the road, his pace steady despite the exhaustion that weighed heavily on his limbs. Each step brought him closer to salvation, to the warmth and security of civilization. But as he walked, Terry couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched, that unseen eyes followed his every move from the depths of the forest. Paranoia gnawed at his sanity, threatening to drag him back into the abyss from which he had barely escaped. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Terry reached the road and flagged down the first passing car he saw. The driver, a kind-hearted stranger, offered him a ride back to town, sparing him from the perils of the wilderness. As they drove away from the forest, Terry couldn't help but glance back one last time, a shiver coursing down his spine at the memory of the horrors that lurked within its depths. But as the distance grew between them, Terry vowed never to return, to leave the darkness of that night behind him once and for all. And though the scars of his ordeal would linger, a testament to the terrors he had faced, Terry emerged from the forest a survivor, his spirit unbroken by the darkness that had threatened to consume him.